Come on in, guys. How's the audio? Welcome to the Week 3 preview. Week 3 recap and Week 4 preview. Everything's good? All right, perfect. This is going to be a pretty good show, guys. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Worked on a little bit of the background issues with some of the lighting and stuff, so hopefully everything looks good with that. Continuing to try to improve all the products that we do here. So these will be on YouTube. Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I encourage you. So first of all, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, I have a YouTube channel. Just search Warren Sharp or Sharp Football. You'll find the YouTube there. Go ahead and subscribe to that because I will be releasing some of these things on YouTube if you happen to miss it. In addition, be sure that you're checking out the Sharp Football Analysis podcast because I'll try to put some of these up there as well. And you can, obviously, everything that I'm going to be pulling into this show tonight comes straight from what you guys can see at sharpfootballstats.com. So you'll be able to do all of this research. You can extend the research, do more projects, everything that you want to do up at sharpfootballstats.com. It's 100% free as always. So let's go ahead and roll because Evan's going to be joining us and we want to knock out a lot of topics here. First up is the no run on first down. And obviously I've been preaching this for a while. Other people have as well. And league-wide on first down, we are seeing that passes so far this year, this is 2018, 7 yards per attempt and a 67% completion rate. Now that's key. Pay in mind 67% completion rate. 52% success rate. Runs are gaining 4.3 yards per carry and a 47% success rate. Now, why is it key to talk about the completion rate? Because that's basically the floor. The floor is your completion rate. So back in the late 90s, as you can see all the way down here, the completion rate was down to 58%. So 58% was obviously very poor, but if you're only completing 58% of your passes, then that means that 42% of the time you're gaining no yards on first down. Look at what has happened over the years as passing has improved. We have seen that the completion rate has steadily progressed, and now, so far in 2018, we are seeing a 67% completion rate on first down passes in the first half. So teams are having a lot of success passing the football and being able to do so with a higher floor than there's ever been. Now, what the benefit of that is that you don't have as many 0-yard gains on first down, which a lot of coaches hate. Oh, well, we could gain 2 yards if we run the ball. At least we'll be in 2nd and 8 rather than 2nd and 10. Well, you're not going to be in 2nd and 10 nearly as much now as you even were 5 years ago. So who are the biggest offenders through 3 weeks of the season that refuse to pass the football on early downs, on first down in particular? This is the list. These are the 4 worst teams who choose to run the ball the most on first downs in the first half. And alongside their numbers, you can see this is their success rate when they choose to run the football. So 29th in the league, the Dallas Cowboys. They run the ball on 61% of their first downs in the first half, and those run plays only produce a 40% success rate. Next up is the LA Chargers, another team that is below 500. They, however, actually do have a good success rate when they run. They're the only one on this list that you could possibly justify slightly that they run the ball because they're having so much success doing so, but it hasn't paid off enough for them yet so far this season. Houston Texans, a winless team, a team that might be firing their coach. They're down there at 31 in the league. They run the ball 63% of the time on 1st and 10s in the first half. Just how can you really defend that, Bill O'Brien? But the worst, the absolute worst, are the Tennessee Titans. Down there, they run the ball on 1st and 10 at a 73% rate. Now, everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and say, well, they had Blaine Gabbert, and so they had to run the ball more, and they had to protect their quarterbacks, and this and that. But The reality is, how do you protect your quarterback? You protect your quarterback by putting him in advantageous situations to pass the ball. You protect your quarterback by letting him throw into heavier boxes so that they're calling pass plays instead of run plays in those situations. You do not protect your quarterback by running the ball on first down almost 3/4 of the time and gaining a 25% success rate on those plays, and then forcing your quarterback to throw the ball on 3rd and long. That is not protecting him. That is not helping him. This will transition. You saw a team on there, the Dallas Cowboys, into the next subject matter, which is running back passes to the Dallas Cowboys. And this will spiral into a larger picture about the Dallas Cowboys. I promised on Twitter tonight to talk a lot about the Dallas Cowboys, so forgive me if I go for the next few minutes on Dallas Cowboys only, but it's important that we understand what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And there's a lot of blame to put here. I'm not going to pin it all on the play caller, even though Jason Garrett is trusting him to continue calling plays. This is Jason Garrett's offense, and this is the offense that they've chosen to do. This has been Jason Garrett's offense for several years now. You can blame some of it on Dak. You can blame some of it on Linehan. You can blame some of it on Jason Garrett. But overall, there's one person at the top of the list, and that is Jason Garrett. This was the offseason. Both Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan said Ezekiel Elliott needs to catch more passes. So let's talk first and foremost about when you should catch passes. In the passing game, running backs are most effective to target running backs on early downs. That is when they have their highest success rate. And we've seen, especially on first downs, they have a tremendously strong success rate there. So let's look at what the Dallas Cowboys have done with their running back target share in terms of every single pass, running back, tight end, wide receiver, who they're going to. On early downs, first and second down, in 2016, they averaged a 15% target rate to running backs on early downs. The NFL average was at 20%, so they were well below the average. In 2017, they still averaged 15% target rate to running backs compared to all the players on early downs, and the NFL average increased from 20 to 23%. Fast forward to this year. In the offseason, they said, we need to throw the ball more to Ezekiel Elliott. We need to throw the ball more to Ezekiel Elliott. 15%. The exact same as it's been on early downs, where the league average has continued to grow. So they're getting further and further away from what the league average is because they're not taking advantage of the modern football, which is throwing the football more often on early downs. So the question becomes, if they are indeed targeting him more, they aren't coming on first down or second down, so where must they be coming? Well, you're right, on third down. The Dallas Cowboys are throwing the football to their running backs on 43% of their third down passes. 43%. Now, take a look at what they're doing with the rest of the players. Wide receivers are down at 39% and tight ends are down at 17%. Now, I know you're saying, well, they don't have great wide receivers. Yes, that is true. But look at the league averages. Okay, the league average for running backs is only 17%. The league average for wide receivers is up at 64%, and the league average for tight ends is 19%. Why is the league average so high for wide receivers? Not everybody's got great wide receivers. It's because wide receivers have the highest success rate. In addition, tight ends are close at being converting these third down passes into first downs. Running backs, over the last 3 years, have a 10% lower success rate when targeted on third down than any other targeted position, tight ends or wide receivers. It's the least, you're going to have the least opportunity to convert a first down on third down if you throw the football to your running back. Now, there are some times when it's still okay to do that, when you're trying to gain a couple of yards and put yourself into field goal range. But in this particular case, this is a habit for them. This is not just a one-off, oh, well, this particular time we were trying to do this. This is what they do. They're targeting their running backs a ton on third down. Now, if you look at what they do, what the league averages on 3rd and 8 yards to go, a pass to a running back is half as likely to gain a first down as a pass to a wide receiver or a tight end. Half as likely. But the Dallas Cowboys throw more of their passes to running backs on 3rd and 8 plus than they do to even wide receivers or tight ends. You could blame it on a lot of things, like their wide receivers aren't getting separation, but the bottom line is they need to be more intelligent. There's another issue, personnel issues. Listen to this. Okay, so on third downs, we're talking about third downs. They're targeting a lot of running back passes on third downs. Dallas, now this isn't updated. I update up at Sharp Football Stats. You can search on the offense tab, go down to play frequency, and you can find the personnel grouping frequency. It's all free. You can look at it. I don't have it updated through week 3. That'll come later tonight. I'll update that around midnight Eastern time. Well, I'll start pulling the data. It'll be updated tomorrow morning. But through the first 2 weeks, they have called 94% of their pass plays on third down with 3+ wide receivers. Now, that is a very bad grouping to utilize if you're trying to convert a third down when you have issues protecting. I heard a lot of the Cowboys fans on Twitter talking about, well, they need to be protecting Dak. They're not protecting Dak enough. Well, that's what happens when you're using 3 wide receivers, a tight end who sometimes is going out for a route, and a running back who clearly is also going out for a route. You're using a lot of 5-man protections for Dak Prescott. What they need to be doing is more 12 personnel. And even if that extra tight end is not running a route, he's at least providing extra pass blocking. They need to be more creative than using 94% pass plays from 3+ wide receiver sets. It's clearly not working. Other issues for Dallas. They have the number 1 cap hit for the offensive line. They also have the cheapest quarterback in the NFL. So this is a big problem for them when they have to decide what they're going to do with Dak Prescott. Now, I know a lot of fans are like, well, maybe we'll just won't sign him. Well, Jerry Jones, at least heading into this season, had this quote, if you don't remember. He's going to get his extraordinary contract. That was Jerry Jones talking about Dak Prescott heading into the season. So unless he does a complete 180 and goes the opposite direction, he's looking to sign this guy long term. That's the goal. His hope is that that's what's going to happen. So what are some ideas to help the Dallas Cowboys? Well, number 1, pass more on first down. It's the most advantageous time. If you look at Dak Prescott's passing on first down versus third down, I wrote about it in the book, the 2018 football preview. You can find it on Amazon. I wrote about how they need to pass the ball more on first down. Dak is much better passing on first down than he is on third down. Stop running, being one of the most run-heavy teams on first down, and start passing the ball a little bit more. Run more in the red zone. Do you know that the last 2 weeks, Dak Prescott has thrown 8 passes inside the red zone, and they've only run the ball 4 times? Do you know how many of those 8 passes graded out as successful? 1. 1 pass out of 8 graded out as successful. You know how many of the run plays graded out as successful? All 4. I advocate running more in certain situations and passing more most of the other time. Inside the red zone is one time that you do want to run the ball more, and they need to do a little bit more of that. Dak on third or fourth down. Run him more. Let him use his wheels more often. Do you know that over the last 3 years, Dak Prescott is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL on third or fourth down at picking up a first down? The number 1. And I don't even mean quarterback. I might have said quarterback. The number 1 player. He has a higher first down rate than any other player in the NFL on third or fourth down if he runs the football. 86% first down rate, 6.6 yards per carry. Those numbers, especially the yards per carry, destroy any of the other players. So let him run the ball more often. All right, NFL play calling. We got about 5 minutes before Evan's going to call us. NFL play calling. Mike Gundy from Oklahoma State came in and said, they're taking our plays. They might not admit it because they're supposed to be the best. He's talking about the NFL coordinators should be the best, so why are they stealing our plays and using them in the NFL? Well, if you are the best, first of all, we all know that every single NFL coordinator, they may not be the best, number 1. Number 2, you need to keep improving your craft and your skill and try to do new things. And so I have no problem with NFL coaches or coordinators taking plays from college. Try something new that works. The reason why, and I've said this before on here, but the reason why college teams are able to be more creative is because they run so many more plays a game. A lot of these offenses run tons of plays a game, and they're oftentimes playing far worse competition. So they're able to practice a lot of these plays in live action. NFL, there's fewer plays per game, there's higher stakes, and the games are closer overall. You're not seeing constantly teams winning by 25, 30 points every single week. So that's what we see in college, and these guys can get more creative and try new things. I applaud them for doing that, and NFL coaches should not be ashamed to take things out of the college realm and implement them into the NFL. We've got to talk a little bit about the Carolina Panthers because I've been extremely impressed with what not only Cam Newton and Norv Turner have been doing, but the run game as well. Extremely strong in Carolina. So year to date, Cam on early downs, first and second down, 69% completion, 7.7 yards per attempt, and a 104.5 rating. On early downs alone, and I know what you're saying here, well, this is probably because he's throwing the ball to Christian McCaffrey a ton. That's why his completion rate's high. That's why he's got such a good passer rating. Okay, let's look at early down passes not to running backs. 64% completions, 8.2 yards per attempt, and a 112 rating. This is not to running backs. This is without Greg Olsen there. This is incredible what Cam Newton is doing down in Carolina right now. Now, in 2017, let's compare the two. This is what he did in 2018. In 2017, his 64% completions was down at 57%. His 8.2 yards per attempt was down at 7.3, and his 112 passer rating was down at 83.9. Extreme improvement, albeit over a small sample size. Their run game, though, is what really put the Cincinnati Bengals on their heels yesterday. They right now, through 3 weeks of the season, number one in yards per carry at 5.8, number one in success rate at 59%. They face the following two teams after their bye week. The Giants, who have the 19th rated defense in terms of success rate, run defense in terms of success rate, and the Washington Redskins, who rank 28th. So Christian McCaffrey on a bye this week. Wait until he comes back the next couple of games. It'll get a little bit harder after that, but they're going to face still a couple more defenses that are bad against the run. Speaking of strength of schedule, I will be updating strength of schedule on Sharp Football Stats starting this week. It's a great and very useful tool during the season, so I'm excited to be getting ready to roll that out. They also said that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to be able to run behind center. He's not going to be able to do these inside runs. He gained, in their game yesterday against Cincinnati, 154 rushing yards behind the center or either guard. That averaged out to 7 yards per carry on his 23 rushes. Absolutely ridiculous the way they gutted the Cincinnati Bengals from the inside out. I wish we had more time to talk about the Saints because what Drew Brees is doing this year is ridiculous. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, absolutely ridiculous. We will talk about them again. I talked about them last week, but I just want to say absolutely ridiculous what those guys are doing right now. We've got to talk about Steve Sarkisian a little bit because Sark made some changes after myself and a lot of other people on the internet and Twitter ripped him on what he was doing in week one, calling those jumbo formations at the end zone. We ripped him, and guess what? Since that point in time, weeks 2 and week 3, they've made 4 trips each week to the red zone. 4 times they've scored touchdowns on each of them. That's 8 for 8 since week 1. They've done a lot of new things in the red zone, but Matt Ryan, the way that they're calling their plays now in the red zone has been incredibly strong. Matt Ryan in the red zone the last 2 weeks, 9 for 9. Of those 9 passes, 6 of them were touchdowns, 100% success rate on his passes. Nothing to Julio. They're basically letting the defense, toy around with Julio, and he's finding the openings. He's doing what Kyle Shanahan taught him to do, and that is take what the defense gives you, and that includes running with his feet, quarterback sneaks, etc. Very strong. They're using lots of 11 and 12 personnel. They're using when they pass, 11 personnel, a lot of it. They're using the running back as an immediate threat out of the backfield to draw a linebacker to him in coverage. Extremely strong what they're doing there. Now, Evan's about to join us. One last thing before he does. The Rams don't need a punter. This is a pretty incredible stat. 3 games, the Rams have punted 5 times. In 3 games, they've punted 5 times. Since 1950, only 2 teams punted less through their first 3 games. That was the 92 Bill Walsh 49ers and the 2007 New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots, they went undefeated during the season. So that bodes well for their success, but that is absolutely incredible that they have punted in 3 full games just 5 times. Ridiculous performance. What has helped them there? What they've done on early downs. They're the number 1 offense on early downs. The easiest way not to punt, and I've been preaching early downs. I created a metric like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I forget, early down success rate. the easiest way not to have to punt is don't go to third down, because you're never going to have the risk of failing. So they are so good at bypassing third down, they don't have to worry about it. They don't punt. And so while the Seahawks in their same division are talking, and justifiably so, about Michael Dixon and how great he is, the Rams don't even need to worry about a punter because they just never punt the football, basically. All right, so we're going to be joined momentarily by Evan Silva. We're going to break down the game tonight. Looking forward to that game. Let's see. He should be calling us here in a second. While we're waiting for him, I might as well just start talking a little bit about this matchup. A couple things that I want you guys to pay attention to tonight when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play the Pittsburgh Steelers. To the right. I call this slide to the right. So the Steelers defense with Ryan Shazier is very different from the Steelers defense right now. When they had Ryan Shazier, on passes to the right, they allowed only 5.9 yards per attempt, a 38% success rate, and only 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. That was with Shazier. Since Shazier left to the right, their 5.9 is up to 7.9 yards per attempt. Their success rate is up from 38% down to up to 46%. And their touchdown to interception ratio, 6 touchdowns to 1 interception, as opposed to 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions with Shazier. Now, why do we care what's to the right? That's because Ryan Fitzpatrick has a very strong tendency to throw the football to his right. He is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL at throwing the football to his right. To his right this entire season, he's 19 of 22, averaging 15.9 yards per attempt, a 73% success rate, and 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions with a 158.3 passer rating. What do they do in another situation? What do? They have a very quick passing offense, quick explosive passing offense. Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he goes deep down the field, he is 12 of 17. That's a 71% success rate and 25.1 yards per attempt on passes 15 plus yards down the field. Patrick Mahomes is number 2 in the league at 16.5 yards per attempt. That tells you the ridiculousness of what Ryan Fitzpatrick is doing. Mahomes is like arguably the best quarterback right now in the NFL in terms of how he's dialed in. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is almost averaging 10 more yards per attempt on deep passes. They particularly strike first down going deep. They're the number 1 offense in the NFL on deep passes on first down. They've completed 8 out of 9 pass attempts, 30.9 yards per attempt. Absolutely ridiculous what they're doing on first down. So what I want you to watch for in this game tonight, watch to see how often, number 1, Ryan Fitzpatrick is passing the ball to his right and how efficient those passes are as compared to the left, and also how often he's going deep down the field, especially on first down, because it's definitely a tendency of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, something they do quite often. Let's see here if we can get Evan Silva on here. He's about ready to call. All right, perfect. So Evan's going to be calling right now. Here he is. We are going to take your questions right after this. So looking forward to interacting. We're going to get some fantasy questions for you. Hold on. Evan.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, man, it is great. We're having a lot of fun here talking about tonight's game a little bit right now. Hope you enjoyed so far what we've had to offer in Week 3. Before we dive into some of your thoughts on Week 3, tell us a little bit about tonight's matchup. What do you think is something that's going to help decide the matchup tonight? A key matchup that could determine the outcome of the game tonight. What do you think?
Definitely the secondaries on both sides. First of all, we've seen this total get hammered up. I think that you liked the over at one point, but I think it was originally set at like 50.5, and it's up to like 54, 55. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it opened at 50. It was really low, and I'll tell you, some of these people are banging small limit plays on Sunday night. They can't really get down much, but they're kind of screwing up the market. But at any rate, yeah, it moved up to 52.5 from 50 within a few hours on Sunday night of last week, and it's been right around 54.5 for much of the time since then.
Yeah, the secondaries on both sides look really, really problematic. For the Steelers, they're benching Artie Burns, their number 2 cornerback. I thought Artie Burns played pretty well last year, but he has been a major liability so far this season. Gave up 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and has been trying to play through a toe injury. They benched him. They're going to Cody Sensabaugh, who's been awful throughout his career. So it's not even necessarily an upgrade. They're getting back Joe Hayden, but he's a cornerback coming off of a hamstring injury. And, who knows how he's going to look out there. And then on the other side, the Bucs, they've been dealing Chris Conte, their starting strong safety, had a knee injury. They, of course, lost their slot corner, Vernon Hargreaves, to a year-ending shoulder injury early on. They're bringing back Brent Grimes, who's been out with a groin injury since late in August. So this will be his first game. Who knows how he'll look? And they're starting a bunch of scrubs out there. I mean, like rookies, like M.J. Stewart out of North Carolina and Carlton Davis out of Auburn at cornerback. This really should be, and there's a reason that the over has been getting hammered by people with money, is because this game really should be a shootout. I hope that it lives up to it, unlike that Sunday night game, which was just a total disaster. Seeing Matt Patricia outcoach Bill Belichick was kind of mind-numbing. Yeah,
it was. I know you've got a lot of thoughts on Matt Patricia and on the Bill Belichick offense and some of the things that they were doing with Sony Michel. You and I were discussing that late last night. But I don't know if that's something you want to dive into here, but we are at the topic of what is your biggest surprise of what we saw. And we saw a lot of upsets. We saw a lot of underdogs competing, winning outright. It was a very strong performance from some of the underdog teams. Maybe you could talk about a few teams if you want to, but what was one of the biggest surprises that you saw?
I think that the most obvious surprise was, Buffalo going to Minnesota and kicking their butts.
Yeah.
And, the Vikings almost took that game for granted because they had high-impact players that probably could have played in a normal week, but they didn't play them, like Everson Griffin, their best pass rusher, and Dalvin Cook. I think that there was a chance that he probably could have played too. They did not play those guys, and they went cautious into the game. It was almost like they expected to win. And then when the game started, Jerry Hughes was kicking Riley Reese's ass. And strip sacks on each of the first 2 drives, and the Bills jump out to a big lead, and it's like the Vikings they froze up, man. And that's scary. And that's a team that I thought was going to maybe go to the Super Bowl from the NFC side this year, and seeing them lose that, and now on a short week they have to go on the road to face the Rams. They're about to be, good chance. They're about to be 1-2-1, and that's a major problem for the Vikings. But that was easily the biggest surprise. That might be the biggest surprise that we see all season.
Yeah, in terms of point spread, it's the largest. I got a database that goes back 40 years, and it's the largest outright victory for any dog who was an underdog of, I think, more than 10 points. They were obviously catching 16.5. It's like record-breaking levels of positive production for them, and then just crapping out completely for the Vikings. And definitely it should shed some concern over Kirk Cousins in that offense. The amount of money that they paid to him, and they couldn't even get any production. That was disappointing, I think, for all of the Vikings fans out there, and surprising to the rest of us around the league who analyze it. Yeah, I thought that was obviously the biggest surprising outcome to me, but there was a lot of things to really kind of check your line of thinking. You kind of get a little bit overconfident in terms of your thinking and what you're going to do. I will tell you, my biggest surprise overall was the fact that The over 43 that I placed on the Baltimore Ravens Denver Broncos game did not hit. This game had 35 points scored in the first half. The total was open at 43. We bet it there. It went up to 46.5. We got 3.5 points of line movement. This game had 35 points at halftime. They scored a quick touchdown in the third quarter, and for the last 22 plus minutes, no more points on the scoreboard. They called off defensive touchdowns that have been run back. They pulled them off the board because of blocking in the back that didn't have anything to do with it. That was very frustrating to me. Evan, what was the one prediction that you nailed? Something that you felt really strongly and heading into the week, but and ended up coming through for you?
This was such an unpredictable week, and we had these weeks, spread out over the course of the season. This was a really, really high variance week. The first 2 weeks were pretty chalky. I mean, pretty much, kind of what we expected to happen did happen. I'm trying to think. I guess nothing really pops off the top of my head.
What about Patrick Mahomes or Alvin Kamara? I think Alvin Kamara probably.
Those guys were gimmies. One of the things that I really liked, and we discussed this during the week, was the over on Carolina Cincinnati.
Yep.
And that hit pretty easily, and that was despite Cincinnati leaving some points on the board there. But I was all over that game. And I also like Deshaun Watson, and he kind of got lucky toward the end because he had a garbage time touchdown to Lamar Miller. But I definitely liked him. I liked J.J. Watt to have a really big game, and he did, but that was kind of a gimme too. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I had a great week from a prediction standpoint. I had a good week myself personally in daily fantasy, but I don't think it was a great week for predictions. It was a very hard week to predict, and that happens sometimes over the course of the NFL season.
Right. So, last question, and then guys, we are going to use the rest of the time after this to start asking Evan some fantasy questions or any other questions that you guys might have. Don't ask the questions yet because I'm not going to be able to remember them to read them to him. So wait until I tell you to go, then send it. Okay. What's a player or team that fell short but you think is going to bounce back?
Well, it's going to be the same answer as last week, and that's the Patriots.
Right.
And the Patriots just laid a total egg on Sunday Night Football. I don't know what they were thinking, still running the ball with Sony Michel down multiple scores in the fourth quarter. Running the ball with Sony Michel has been a losing proposition for them so far. They need to smarten up. And it is true that every once in a while, it's rare, but every once in a while we will see the Patriots get out-coached. We saw that in that Seattle Sunday night game a few years ago. We saw that in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. It's not common, but it does happen, and we saw that happen on Sunday Night Football. Now they go back home to Foxborough. They're facing a 3-0 Dolphins team. Bill Belichick needs to whip his team into shape. They need to get Josh Gordon out there at least to attract attention, to go grab the coverage of Xavier Howard so that he's not stuck on another guy, because Xavier Howard has been unbelievable. And teams are assigning 2 and 3 players to bracket out Rob Gronkowski. I mean, he has not been able to get open. One thing I actually noticed also about Rob Gronkowski entering the season is that in Josh Hermsmeyer's game speed charting from Next Gen Stats, he's not that fast anymore. I mean, he's definitely lost some speed, and that's really not surprising if you've watched him in recent years. The way that he wins is making contested catches just with his size, with his physicality. But they need Josh Gordon's presence to be able to take away attention from Rob Gronkowski, and that's going to be critical, really, I think, for the rest of their season.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even if he doesn't have that high end speed, if he can just get on the outside and the defense has to respect him, because they're clearly not respecting the receivers that New England's throwing out there now. So get a little bit of the attention away from Rob Gronkowski, make Tom Brady feel a little bit happier. I think getting Edelman back will be a massive difference for him, and I think they'll be okay once that happens. But you're absolutely right. It's difficult. You guys keep asking about Linehan. Rewind a thing. We're talking about Jason Garrett, the Dallas Cowboys play calling, and everything else, like 2 segments into the show. All right, let's go ahead and roll off some of your fantasy questions or any other questions that you have for Evan or myself. Let's take advantage of it while we got them. We'll take about 15 minutes here. One player you're putting in FanDuel MVP spot tonight. I don't know what that means, Evan, to you.
Yeah, I have not played any of these slates, though.
All right, well, we'll just move on then if we...
Well, no, I mean, I did play him in the preseason, so I kind of know what he's talking about. I would lean toward Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay, so a DFS...
Basically, what you want, I think, is that you want the highest scoring guy to be in your in your fantasy MVP slot, because you get double or 1.5, I can't remember, but you get like extra points for that guy. And so what you want is the highest scorer in the game in that spot, and I would go with Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay, have you done any player props for the game tonight? Have you bet on anything yet?
No.
Okay. Let's see. What do you think about the Patriots backfield? You were high on Rex Burkhead coming in. Now it looks like they're trying to get Sony Michel involved. Like, where do you think the backfield goes from here? I don't know if you want to don't spend too much time because it's so hard to predict, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-man backfield. Certainly I really like Rex Burkhead, but as people started to take him like really early, I started to grab a lot of James White.
Yes.
And James White wound up being my highest owned Patriots running back in high stakes and best ball. It's a 3-man backfield. These things can change quickly. We have not seen guys getting a bunch of carries inside the opposing, 5-yard line, and that's where a lot of Rex Burkhead's value is accrued. We really just have not seen this offense click at all.
Okay.
Really, I mean, they didn't show up on Sunday night. They played the Jaguars in week 2 on the road. They need to get their shit together, and then we can have more confident assessments of them. But they haven't been a good offense so far.
No, they haven't. All right, we'll do a lightning round. We'll try to get to as many of these as you can. I'm scrolling. What do you think of Matt Breida without Jimmy G?
Yeah, Matt Breida apparently has a hyperextended knee, and so that's a concern. First of all. And second of all, the just overall expectations for the offense, they go from expecting 26 points a week to 18 points a week, and that's a huge concern.
True. Okay. Is Kenyon Drake a viable running back 2 going forward?
Yeah, that is a game that I'm going to watch tonight. Where I watched the Raiders offense, but I have not seen the Dolphins offense yet from that game. So I'm going to finish that after this Monday night game. But I mean, just going off, because I watched their first 2 games, just going off that, I think he's a guy that you expect to be in the 15 to 18 touch range, and that is an RB2.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Ingram versus Mixon rest of the season.
Ingram versus Mixon rest of the season. I'll go with Mixon.
Yeah, I would agree. How much responsibility did LaFleur have in play calling last year versus McVay?
LaFleur was the guy up in the box, and McVay was the guy telling Jared Goff what audible to call to. Matt LaFleur was also the quarterback's coach with the Falcons when Matt Ryan had his MVP year. Matt LaFleur is not the problem. The problem is that they don't have like a functioning quarterback right now.
Right. Okay, how about any thoughts on the Bills' backfield?
LaShawn McCoy's day-to-day. You want to get him back this week because the Packers have been terrible in run defense, but he has this rib problem, and I am anticipating talking to Dr. Chau about that on Friday.
Yep, we definitely will. What about Tyler Boyd? Can he keep this up?
Definitely benefited a little bit from A.J. Green essentially not playing in the second half, but yeah, I tweeted about this last week. I think he's on that Nelson Aguilar kind of career track, and he dealt with some issues his first couple seasons, but this is his third year in the league. He came out of Pitt real young, and he maybe wasn't ready to play in the NFL, but he's ready now. I do think that he's going to be a fairly consistent PPR asset.
Okay, I like that. Is Kamara's output sustainable?
People have been talking about this since he broke into the league. I really wouldn't worry about that. I would just keep starting him and keep winning fantasy weeks.
Right. So that's a straightforward. Whoops. Let's see. Any more thoughts on the running back in Green Bay situation? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's sort of similar to the Patriots situation.
Right.
Right now, it's like a three-way deal, and one guy goes down, and that changes the outlook. But in the first game, the Packers fell behind, or the first game with Aaron Jones back, the Packers fell behind, and we got a very non-bankable distribution of snaps and touches, and now they go back home this week against the Bills, and they're all kind of shaky flex options. But we should get a better read on it this week. These are all guys that you put on your bench. They play in a good offense. These are great bench stashes. They're not starters right now.
Right. What about Chris Hogan? Is he going to be a startable player this season? You think he's going to get back on track, or?
He got shut down by Aaron Colvin in week 1, the Texans slot corner. Awesome player. In week 2, he scored 2 touchdowns, had over 40 yards. And then in week 3, he faced the Lions, and the Patriots just got shut down offensively. No one did anything in that game. Gronk didn't do anything. Brady didn't do anything. James White did a little bit, but that was it. So it's been a real slow start for the Patriots offense, and you have to kind of keep everything in context. Do you think that the Patriots are going to continue to suck offensively, or do you think that they're going to probably turn it up?
Right.
I would bet on the latter, and that's why I would keep the Patriots running backs on my bench. They're great stashes. I would not lose the faith in Rob Gronkowski. I would, maybe downgrade Chris Hogan from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 3, but he would still be a guy that I'd be trying to, I'd be considering starting every single week.
Right. We got a lot of questions here about rest of season buy low targets. So any type of, I guess, guys on the waiver wire getting nervous, and anybody running back or wide receiver, any buy low targets that you see out there? We can skip it.
Julio.
Let's see. Christian McCaffrey's pace sustainable? Is Christian McCaffrey's pace sustainable?
I don't know, man. He's going to continue to get a bunch of touches. He hasn't scored any touchdowns yet he's like a top 10 fantasy running back easily. He's a top 5 PPR running back. He has gotten a lot of work in scoring position. He just hasn't, punched one in yet.
Right.
So I don't really know what does that mean, sustainable. I think that he's going to continue to get a lot of work, and he's going to score more touchdowns than he did in the first 3 weeks. He's a great fantasy player.
Yep. No, I agree. What about the Saints defense. What do you feel like their story is, and will they get back on track? Or is this a situation where Drew Brees is just going to have to outscore people again this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did not expect them to fall off a cliff like this, but they cannot get any pass rush.
Yep.
They actually have played really good run defense. Even last week, without Manti Te'o, their starting middle linebacker, and without Tyler Davison, their starting nose tackle, they still played really good run defense. I mean, Tevin Coleman didn't do anything on the ground. That turns them into like a pass funnel. And that is friggin' awesome for fantasy, for both the opponent and for the Saints. Until they show that they can play like they did last year, I don't see any reason, to flip on them. They're a defense to attack from the opposite end, and they're an offense to invest in because they're going to have to score a lot of points.
I agree. All right, guys. Well, Evan, thanks for joining us. You guys, reminder, can follow Evan on Twitter at Evan Silva. Thanks, Evan. Go enjoy the game.
Thanks, dude.
All right, buddy. All right, guys. I'm going to go watch the game as well. We hope that you like it. You can feel free to replay it. Remember, subscribe on YouTube. Just search for Warren Sharp or Sharp Football Analysis. Check out the Sharp Football Analysis podcast. We're going to be coming to you guys Friday night overnight. We record it. We will be dropping knowledge again with Dr. Chau. We're going to be breaking down games in a little bit more detail than we did last time. We're still going to hit the injuries, but got some positive feedback about dive into the games a little bit more like you guys used to. So we're going to kind of mix it up a little bit. More games in deep dives, but also getting the injuries in there. So hope that you guys enjoy the show. Feel free to retweet it, spread the love, help get more people to find out about the analytics up at sharpfootballstats.com. And feel free to head over to sharpfootballanalysis.com if you want to get some of my write-ups for the Week 4 games. Wish you guys good luck in your action that's going on tonight on Monday Night Football, and good luck with setting your lineups and placing your wagers for Week 4. We will see you guys next Monday night at 7:30, and take care until then.